Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Whistledown Wine Down with Krystal and Mara, a podcast dedicated to our favorite show, Bridgerton, from Shondaland Media, streaming on Netflix. I am Krystal, a wannabe librarian who loves to get lost in a story, and a Shonda stan who constantly asks, does this make me a bad feminist? I love a good romance novel, but thought Regency era fictions were my own guilty pleasure. I now know better.
And I'm Mara, a lover of British period dramas and a huge Jane Austen fan. If I could put myself anywhere, it would be in the writer's room at Shondaland to watch the magic happen. I didn't know there were others like me that enjoyed reading historical romance novels. I feel like I have found my people. All right, y'all. Today we're talking about Bridgerton, season 2, episode 8, The Viscount Who Loved Me. Dramatic pause. So go ahead and grab a glass of wine, tea, or another favorite beverage, and let's get into it. Cheers, Krystal.
Cheers. Clack, 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 clack.
Okay, so much happened in this episode. I don't know, like it really does feel like it's like coming to an end, right? And there were some good parts that I liked about it. I felt like there were some dry parts, but I think in this podcast we're gonna go ahead and do a deep dive. Okay, so you ready for this quick bread?
I'm always ready for this quick bread.
All right, so just some little key fun fact for rewatching of episode 8. Krystal was actually visiting me in Sacramento, California. And let me tell you, Krystal was acting up during the whole episode. Okay. I had to keep pausing this thing and looking at her because she kept asking. I was like, well, wait a second. So I don't know if you guys have friends like that you got to pause stuff so that you know you don't miss anything and you got to address the question. So that's the type of fun that Krystal and I were having watching this episode. Jonathan Bailey gave us Emmy award-winning range of emotions during this episode. Absolutely. He gave us all the love, laughter, and crying feels that you can handle. Benedict went MIA. And Colin takes a W and an L in one episode, shaking my head. Lady Featherington will always ride out for her crew, no matter how much stuff she talks about them. We see our favorite besties have an epic fight. Are you team Penelope or are you team Eloise? Sometimes our siblings can hold a special place when a parent is no longer there. And finally, Kate and Anthony learn about real love. Shout out to Mary J. Blige. Love you, girl. Bye-bye.
I love it. Kate and Kate. These two fools. I'm like, huh.
I was like, praise God. They made it.
I know. Part of it was just like, it's about time.
Right? Because it was written all over the wall between y'all two playing Pall Mall during the two different what do you call it? Library office scenes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Look, the chemistry.
Anytime they were together, anytime you saw one or the other, you were just like, here we go. Look at this. Look at them. Mm-hmm.
Watch what they do right and watch what they do wrong.
Correct. Oh, goodness. We're going to get into it because I can't wait to just ask some questions about, actually, we'll see what happens when we get to up to snuff. But yes, thank you for this quick bread. I think we needed that reminder. There was a lot of things happening in this episode, which is both exciting because you're like, there's so much moving that you're trying to like keep track. And it also gives you a little bit more beyond like Kate and Anthony's story, which, and in my personal opinion, sometimes felt a bit dry just because it just felt was taking too long for them to get the picture or the message. Which is interesting since it's, it's only 8 episodes. So how long has it really taken? But I did enjoy the quick bread. So I'm ready to pass the scones if you are.
I am absolutely ready to go.
All right, girl. Well, cheers to passing the scones.
Cheers.
Okay, so passing the scones, or pass the scones, is our time to share some of our favorite scenes, characters, or moments from the episode, or quotes, that as well. So Mara, what was one of your favorite things this episode?
So the first one that kind of comes to mind is after I actually rewatched the scene a couple hours before we were scheduling to do this podcast. And it's actually towards the opening scene of the episode. And we find out it's been about a week since Lady Whistledown has written her column paper. And, it's been kind of spread out to the whole, city. And one of the scenes that kind of made me chuckle was, you see the two gentlemen that were in the very first episode walking across, I guess, a courtyard area or a quad area. And you have the little newspaper boy running up to them asking them, whether or not that they would like to, purchase Lady Whistledown's, a paper pamphlet, I guess, pamphlet. So in this scene, you see the same two gentlemen, and they actually stop the paper boy and ask the paper boy, "Hey, do you have Lady Whistledown's paper?" And the paper boy says, "No, but would you like, today's news?" And literally the guy just scuffs at the little kid, both of them do, just looking at him why would we want to know about today's news, right? And then just walk off and give the kid the bad, the cold shoulder. So then I was just okay, I'm all right. So, I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of not going to TMZ or one of one of the gossip websites, right? Okay, but were these people even aware of what the actual news was going on during that time, 1813, the early 1800s? So I did a quick Google Wikipedia search. So, please forgive me, but one of the biggest things that was going on during that time was the Napoleonic Wars. It was going on from 1803 to 1815, and it was going across all of Europe. So there's no way in our Bridgerton universe, y'all got a whole war going on in the background. And you don't want to hear what's going on to see if maybe this guy who's 5'8", 5'9" is ready to come over and take over your area. What's going on, right? So I don't know. That was kind of a little cute throwaway scene. I was just how you not going to pay attention to the news though? For real? Lady Whistledown paper, that important? So I wanted to bring that one up because for some reason I just didn't think about it at first until I just watched it earlier today.
That's interesting. I didn't think about what else was happening. Although I do understand finding an escape somewhere from what's going on. But this is the Bridgerton verse, so I guess for them, it's what's the news? Who needs that? I will say from that scene though, I appreciated the paper boy was a little South Asian boy, on at least of South Asian descent. Let me not say he's from there. He could be from London. But I just appreciated the fact that when you see the cast of both the entire cast itself, but even when you see the young kids that are playing the roles, it was nice to see that. And I feel that they may have increased. Well, let me not say that because it's not I took tabs, but I did notice. I'm just I wonder if they were more conscientious of having South Asian cast members because they were going to have a main South Asian cast. Because I think last season there's a young Black boy that played one of the page boys, and who else? Because I remember there were like two in the beginning, and then I feel like even the page boys look like in the beginning we only saw like one or two, and then for this season I think there were like three different ones, and it's like is that reflecting like how much this is growing as far as this business goes? But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that I really appreciated seeing that, because I'm just like, you always notice. I think for me, I'm like, oh, I see you. I'm like, hey.
You're like, I noticed you. Hi.
Yeah, I don't know. That made me really excited. But I was just like, yeah. I also was looking for the little black boy too. I was just like, where's my boy? So anyway, but I did notice that part. There was a level of appreciation for it, for me, as I was, when that scene kind of came and went. What else? So one of my favorite scenes, or at least I should say one of my favorite characters for this episode, surprisingly went to Lady Featherington.
Ooh, okay.
Now, it should probably go to the actress.
Finally.
But listen, the reason being, there's just so much. I think my favorite moment with Lady Featherington is just the way that she's so aloof, and she wants to be respected so badly, right? She wants to be like, she wants all the credit, and at the same time, it's like, you realize you're clapping for yourself, and like nobody would really clap for you if they knew what was going on. Like, it's kind of like that whole level of oblivion, but it's kind of like, I got it, right? And so the best for me moment, because Lady Featherington had moment after moment after moment in this episode, but I think the best moment was when the Queen shows up to her ball, the Featherington Ball, which was so appropriately named. And when the Queen walks in, number one, I think I'm going to walk into places like that from now on, because she literally just kind of like I'm here, and we know that she's there because she's bored.
Yes,
right. But obviously, she, Lady Featherington doesn't know that, but she is like, she's careening. She is so happy. She's like, oh my goodness. And then when she turns to Cressida's mother, Lady Cowper, the way that she like shimmies, like her shoulder shakes. If she had a bigger dress on with a train, she would have been able to swish it and like hit her with it. Like, the way she spun, she leaned in to be like, did you see it? And then walked off.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh my God. Like, I really enjoyed Lady Featherington just like enjoying the fact that she gets to play this part in many ways of being this established, well-funded, successful family, right? And yeah, it was a lot. But Lady Featherington, she kills me every time. And also, did anyone notice that she had a turntable for the musicians?
Wow, right?
That?
Look, I promise you, when I tell you, it's right here in my notes, that one of my favorite scenes was the Featherington Ball. And why couldn't I get an invite? Seriously. Like, and it really was that turntable style stage. And and everyone got a chance to see all of the, I'm sorry, I'm like losing words right now. I don't know why.
We're just so excited. We haven't done this
it's been a while. So I'm not thinking of orchestra, musicians. Look, girl, I couldn't pull that to save my life. Anyways, but you got a chance to see all the musicians. Like, honestly, like I would love to see that something to happen. And it probably does happen. I just haven't been to an event where something like that is going on. But look, my next event I want to go to, I want to see something like that, like on that type of scale. Like that was dope. Like, oh, and then the fireworks going on in the background. And I was just like, yo, like that was a party to be at. It really was. Like the backyard garden was fire.
That's true. That is true. That is true. That's very fair to say. Um, okay. The other moment was when she walks into the Modis and she's like, Madame Lacroix, we want to be gilded. Like she has no idea that anything else is going on in the world, but she just kind of she shows up and she has no idea that the Modis is being grilled or correct me, dressed down by Lady Bridgerton or Miss Bridgerton. Sorry.
Eloise Carter. Mm-hmm.
Fact that she comes like even just the way she walked in, kind of just like I have arrived. That the way she walks in is I have arrived. Like dress me right because having this gold gilded ball and she's just so excited and amazed at everything. So yeah, Lady Featherington. Kudos to just her character at the end of the day. So yeah, favorite definitely goes to Mama Featherington.
Love that. So all right, like I have two favorite moments. One of them some people may not agree with, and the other one I think folks will agree with. So I'm going to give them both to you at the same time. Okay. I love the moment between Anthony and little Gregory looking up at Papa Bridgerton's portrait and Anthony doing some self-reflection and really really putting himself in Gregory's shoes and realizing that Gregory never had the opportunity to meet his own father, will never have the opportunity to meet his own father, and that Gregory is learning through his older siblings and his mom about who his father was. But the person likely closest to a father figure is Anthony, and Anthony actually realizing that. So I love this family stuff. Like I love the family dynamics because I think that all of us at some point as we grow up within our own family dynamics, there's just a lot of transitions that happen. And sometimes we don't even notice them and we don't realize it. And I think that was another part of Anthony's self-reflection, like not realizing how much little Gregory and Hyacinth are just like growing up so fast that, they're going to be out of the house, sooner than you can blink. So I love that part. The other part was Eloise finding out about Penelope and trashing her room. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
Like I was just like, even though I am still team Penelope, I don't care. I'm like this. I don't care. But the fact that Eloise got into Penelope's room, found out that information, and just went ham up, like you knew it was coming. And so I really like that vindication part because Eloise was thrown under that bus and the bus had the nerve to stop and back up and roll over her twice. I was just like, oh gosh. Like, and it was unnecessary too. That's the part that hurts. It wasn't even warranted. It wasn't done by an enemy. It wasn't done by somebody jealous. It wasn't done by like a cousin or a family member adjacent to her. It was literally done by her best friend. Like how hurt Eloise was to find out that it was Penelope, like
Penelope Featherington.
And Eloise gets her revenge in the same episode. So, because usually how storylines go, it's like, oh, well, Eloise, the protagonist will get their turn next season or next episode. This all happened in the same episode. Eloise got into that real quick. Got Penelope together real quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if I could we just talk about this? specifically for Penelope, when you said like not someone that's jealous of her, and I remember that in season 1, she does yell at her. There is a level of jealousy that she feels for Eloise. Because remember in season 1, she said, not everyone can be a pretty Bridgerton like you. That time, this is
lightweight shade, like really passive. Oh, really
lightweight
shade.
If you're listening, you're just like, oh, I thought we were supposed to be friends. But remember, she gets upset with her, and I believe why was she mad? Oh, I think this is when Marina's getting close to Colin. And Louise is like, like, why do you sound like you care? And she's like, well, some of us do care, thinking about marriage. And so, and she pretty much just yells at Eloise and says, like, not everyone can be a pretty little Bridgerton like you. And I was like, oh, see, I have not been Team Penelope since the beginning, and I'm going to stay there. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to enjoy it next season. Let me let me drop these last two.
Oh, you're such a hater. Why you gotta be a hater for?
Listen, we're gonna come back to it. We're gonna come back to Penelope.
Girl. Oh, this is my Bridgerton fan, by the way, in case folks kept wondering what's in my hand. So just letting y'all know, I don't know. I just need to have something in my hand right now. But go ahead, though. I'm listening.
That's because if she could, she'd hit me with it. But look. Like, Krystal, stop hating on Penelope. Yeah, that's not my girl at all. So the other two things, really quickly, I'll just throw these in here because the real stuff I really want to talk about isn't up to snuff. Okay. One is when Lady Mary, who somewhat frustrated me this season because it wasn't about her, but it was still like, I always felt like she wasn't doing enough. But when she says, love is not something that is ever owed, that was like such a like painful and truthful statement when she says it to Kate, because it's this thinking or this belief that no one gave her, right? Like no one said to Kate, like, you owe it to Lady Mary to do these things. And so I love that Lady Mary just kind of like that line specifically that just says love is not something that is ever owed, because I think it's very true. It's not something, love is something that's granted and given, but it's not something that like anybody ever owes you.
Hold it to somebody over.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
so, yeah, I just really love like that. I've never heard it said in that way, right? Love is defined in so many ways. There's multitudes of poems and songs and movies and plays and things about it. And so it was interesting to hear it in that, with that definition. So I love that. And then lastly was Anthony's final like break when he finds out that Kate is okay. And I think his scene, you see it and you're just like, wow, like, does he even realize that he hasn't been breathing until this moment?
Right.
So I just thought that was super beautiful to see. So yeah, that's it for those favorites. Those are the last of my scones for season 2, episode 8.
Oh, wait. One more, just a favorite scene where Colin does the whole bait and switch with Lord Featherington and Will Mondrich. So Colin, peeps game after hearing Will accuse Lord Featherington of being a scammer, basically. And so Colin does his own investigating, and, Colin does the whole bait and switch, and then, confronts Lord Featherington about the fake jewelry. I love the part where Colin comes back to Will Mondrich's gentleman's club and brings his friends, because we really want to keep Mondrich, in for season 3, 4, 5, and 6. We want to see that storyline expand more, because there's still more stuff there. Yeah, there's definitely more room for seeing more about Will and his wife and what they're doing just to trying to keep their family afloat within this Bridgerton universe. But I really like the whole bait and switch with Colin. But like I said in the quick bread, I mean, he took a W, so right there was a win. But then up there talking about all sly, saying, he would never ever want to date Penelope. Like, bro, you just did a loss. Like, you were like up here, like you were great up here, And then all of a sudden you start talking little sly stuff with your little friends off to the side. And Penelope heard it too. I am not I don't like Colin right now. I don't like him.
Interesting.
I don't like him at all. So I'll be honest with you. My issue is not with Penelope. My issue is with him. But go ahead though.
Okay, this brings up a lot of questions. Okay, so we're gonna move this into up to snuff. Because that was the time to ask some questions and to dig a little deeper into some of these other things that were happening during this episode. Mm-hmm. I would really like to get into so I guess one was the question about him, the bait and switch. Like, at what point did he figure out that he needed to ask more questions?
Okay, so let me go ahead and kind of give you my conspiracy theory, Krystal, about that, because when I was watching the episode earlier, there's a scene where Anthony it's really early on in the episode, Anthony busts into the day room where all the family are sitting. And of course, remember, Anthony's up there bickering, doing sly comments to Eloise and Colin. Well, get this. When Anthony starts complaining about trying to balance the books and finally realizing that Colin had withdrawn a substantial amount of money from the family bank account, Colin says, well, I was exploring business opportunities with Lord Featherington, basically about the mines. And I kind of thought about it. I was just like, why would he use the word was? Was is usually a past tense. And usually within the context of the sentence he's using it, it makes me think like, wait, okay, so he was thinking about it, but now he's totally reneging on the thought. So then in the very next scene, he's actually taking the meeting with Lord Featherington. So I'm wondering, I'm like, well, what happened? Because it almost feels like he was backing out of it. He was ready to back out of it earlier that day, but then still took a meeting. And it's just based on what he said. Why did he say the word was? Why didn't he say the word is? Like, I'm currently exploring. So, I just kind of picked up on the language there and, choice words that Colin used. But I think just on the strength of the relationship between the Duke and Will Mondridge, Colin knew Will, in terms of Will's status and position, wouldn't dare open his mouth and talk about a higher born or higher class person in the way that he did, because it was very disrespectful. Like, you don't do stuff like that. Very true. I think that based on the strength of the relationship between Will and the Duke, Colin can trust Will. And if Will steps up to say something like that in that particular manner, knowing the consequences that if Colin was any other guy, like, everyone would have been telling, like, Will's business would have been shut down. Will would have lost all his money. But because Colin is who he is, I think by Will jumping up the way that he did, like, Colin was like, okay, something is definitely amiss now. Maybe Colin had a gut instinct, maybe had a gut feeling, and, maybe wanted to take the meeting just to double check about his gut feeling was saying no go. And then when he heard Will say something, then maybe that just kind of affirmed it. And maybe Colin wanted to investigate it more then to take more action. So I just have this idea that Colin's gut was telling him something earlier on in the day about maybe not going through with a business relationship with Lord Featherington. What do you think?
This is interesting. Okay. I had not thought about like his bait and switch. Let me tell you what actually did come to mind. So one was, as Anthony comes in and complains about trying to reconcile for 2 days, as an accountant, I understand that pain when you're working creation and it's not working and you can't figure it out. And then you suddenly realize that it's because somebody moved something that they weren't supposed to move. So it wasn't something that you did. Somebody else came in and you're like, I would have never thought to look for this. And so when he said it, I was like, 2 days? I was like, and I know he doesn't have a calculator. So I was just stressed. I was like, yo, can you imagine spending 2 days or something? And then the difference, the issue was because of a person who didn't say something to you. They could have easily come to you and just communicated, oh, hey, by the way, I would have been livid too. Okay.
Woo
Sorry.
woo, Krystal. Woo woo. Woo woo.
My rant is done. Let me step down on that soapbox.
You were triggered?
Oh, was I? So that was one. So then the other part was watching when okay. Somehow I looked at Colin, I'm like, is Colin a pirate now? Because Colin went on his excursion. He went to Greece. He did all his travels, and he obviously had to, take the boat to go. You take a ship to go there. But it's the way that he takes Miss Cowper's necklace off. I'm just like, like he's like
he was smooth with it, wasn't he?
Like,
he was. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was like that was a skilled move. I'm like, did he learn that on the ship? Because I'm just like, where was Colin when he was out there getting opium, going seeing flowers, and what have you? I said, what else did you learn on this trip? Mm-hmm. So I did think that was interesting because it made me think about how there's so much trust in this universe, and like what will happen when someone else, like not just like cousin Jack, but when someone else that is a common thief, or I wouldn't even say common, but like a skilled thief, can easily step into the midst and like create their new persona and present in whatever way, right? So in many ways, another cousin Jack, but smarter, is what I was thinking. And so when he stood up to Will in regards to Featherington, I kind of felt like it was only because of his relationship with Penelope and the fact that he's known this family a lot longer. But I did kind of in the back of my mind wonder, I'm just like, I wondered about the relationship with his brother-in-law's best friend. Mm-hmm. I did have a moment of just like, hey, don't forget that this was your brother-in-law's second, right? When they were supposed to duel your elder brother, like,
yeah, he was there. Yeah. He was there because he's the one that spilled the beans to Daphne on where the duel was going to be. Correct. So there was a piece of that recognition of just like in this scenario, right? If it comes to like, I don't want to say loyalties because they don't necessarily know each other personally, but when it comes to familiarity and like having like a longevity with someone, the person with the most that you could trust the most, or the person you know the most, I should say, is the local, right? Like, so you probably know Will, or you've seen Will move about, and him being in like, maybe not in all of their company, because granted, he just became part of this class. It does make you question, at least it made me question whether or not he would trust him over this other new charlatan that's now here, that you really don't know about. You're just hearing about things, and how much can you really trust this man? Also, there is something to be said about the fact that of all these people in the time signing up with this man, Colin was the only one that was like, let me do some due diligence. Like, I don't understand. True. True. So True. Yeah. So I didn't like immediately get it. Like, I was still trying to figure out kind of like how he was moving and where he was seeing the connections and how he was going about it. But at the end of the day, I appreciate that he did. But when he first told Pen, like, come with me, and took her hand, I was just like, oh, I was like, Penelope. Penelope, he's taking you off somewhere. I was excited for her. Even though I'm not Team Penelope, I was very excited for her in that moment, because I'm just like, oh my God, like, what is he going to say? And so the fact that he was, there to protect them, to protect her, and
I did feel like, you know, it's kind of like, wow, like they really do have a great relationship. Like he really does see her as family in many ways, even though he doesn't see her yet as like the woman of his dreams. So, and if we can jump back to that actually. So before you said, I know you said Colin's not your friend.
No, he's not. Nope.
You said Colin had a win with Mondridge, but then had an L with Penelope because she heard him say it. But realistically, he doesn't know that she heard him. So technically, he doesn't even know that happened. But I don't know if that's an L for Colin. I think it's an L for Penelope, but I don't think that's Colin's L, personally. Me, myself, personally. Are you in disagreement? Oh my God. Listen, Penelope.
What? Penelope, okay. What? Penelope, if you overheard the guy that you like, the guy that you've been pining for the last 2 seasons. Okay.
Correct. It's longer, because I'm sure
it's longer, but we know. And you overhear him talking to his buddies, talking about, oh, I wouldn't dare date Krystal.
Okay, well, we're not gonna say that.
Okay. So now, when the names change, the feelings change. Okay, just checking. I'm just checking.
I still think that the L is for Penelope in that moment. It is not for Colin.
How?
Because Colin, okay. So the only loss happens on Penelope's part. In this scenario, no one else is impacted in the way that Penelope is. That's why I don't see it as Colin being the one that's the loss in this, because in some ways he still shows face in the group of his peers, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. He takes like the I don't know if you want to say the spotlight off of him, right? By saying no. It's like, oh, like, no, that's not it. Like, I wouldn't dream of that. Like, I think one, it kind of keeps him in a safe space. It keeps him out of like the talk and the conversation. And yeah, I just don't like, okay, like, help me understand. How do you see it as being Colin's L? I'm not saying a loss in the sense that like Penelope could have walked away from him, but I'm thinking more so, how is it? Yeah. How is this a loss for Colin in this moment?
Okay. So, well, first of all, it's a poor setup. He's with his homies, and yes, you can tell he's trying to, save face, and he says what he says, right? But this is my thing. Colin has shown nothing but like upright, what do you call it? That what you see is what you get. Like, Colin is this upfront guy. He's honest. And in fact, he's even taking, things into his own hand. He's seeing a wrong being done and he wants to right it. Right. So he's really on this like superhero tip right now. And what embodies, this, superhero type thing. I don't even know if superhero is the best word to use, but like, he's like an upstanding guy. So you're an upstanding guy. You're looking out for the little people. But then when you get around your homies, you're going to do a double face and then do this whole little slide comment talking about, oh, no, I'd never date Penelope. I'm like, did you really have to say it like that? Was it even like you knew what your boy was trying to do? Your boy was trying to bait you into something. And I wouldn't be surprised if old boy had seen Penelope walking by and asked him the question on purpose so that we all could, I know it's a conspiracy theory, but who knows? Because think about it, because his homeboy was looking at Colin this way and Penelope's coming from this direction.
That is fair. Ooh, that's cruel. That is some cruel business. Although, okay.
So back to just to reiterate, Colin's doing all this upstanding stuff, and then all of a sudden you just can't. I mean, like you could have been respectful and say, you could have been. Any guy would have been like, nah, we're just friends. Like, it's cool. Like, but no, Colin had to go ahead and just do a little bit more too much and say, oh no, I wouldn't dare, blah, 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 blah with Penelope. I'm like, really? Did you have to say? I mean, like, did you have to do my girl like that?
Yes.
So that's where I'm coming from in terms of the L. Like, he lost his upstanding, citizenship badge. Like, he lost his Boy Scout badge right in front of me. Like, you had it at one moment and then you lost it in the next. I'm like, come on.
Okay. I can understand where you're coming from. However, I'm gonna tell you the truth.
You always trying to give Penelope an L. I can't wait till season 3. Ooh, I can't wait.
Let me tell you about Penelope Featherington's, like, her roller coaster. And I drew a little roller coaster in my notes because I said, this poor girl, because realistically, right, we start off with her, she's stressed. The whole episode, she's stressed, right? She gets to do about the fact that she done ruined her friend. She still wants to go see her friend with the secret, mind you. I doubted she was going to come clean about it, personally. Mm-hmm. I did not think that was ever going to be the case. Mm-hmm. However, what ends up happening that I thought was probably the best thing for me was, like, she's going to go through this emotional thing, whatever the case is. And here comes Colin Bridgerton, who says, Penn, like, come with me. So the man of your dreams is now taking your hand and is walking you away. So she's already kind of like, what is happening? Her breathing is not even where it's supposed to be anymore. She's just like, I don't even.
Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
And then he stands, like you said, the upstanders, like, is protecting her family. He's telling this man he needs to go. She's looking at her mother who's like, don't worry about it. But she's like, oh my goodness, this man has come to save and protect me. And then he dances with you on the dance floor. You're just like, this is the night of my life. Like, this is the most amazing night ever. And this girl is on cloud 9. And on that cloud, she floats up to her room to probably go spin in it and think about, what her kids are going to look like with Colin. Ooh. And then she finds my girl, tried and true, Eloise, is in there going, I'm sorry. All I have to say is, when Eloise is in the room, she was like, oh my goodness. It's the fact that she's, like, her first reaction is like, what are you doing in here? And she's like, where'd you get this money from? Now, the other thing I think people need to remember is that when you win money, like you didn't get necessarily like bills and coins, because bills weren't as big then. You got pieces of paper that confirm, like, how much, like, value was related to, like, the amount. So it's not like now we have, like, printed money. And so in the beginning, she had coins. This season, when you saw what she was getting, because remember season 1, or when she was making the thing, she had a little pouch of coins. She had bank this season, and you saw her counting her monies, right, at one point, and then you saw at this point when Eloise is like, what is this? Because this is not pin money, and your family's poor. I know your daddy died, right? She didn't say any of that, but she could have if she wanted to. And the reality was like, yo, Penelope is really making bread right now, and all she's doing is cutting people up. And so, anyway, I'm digressing, but that was probably my favorite scene of the entire season. And so she goes right on. She's on this cloud 9. She's on this crest. She's floating, and then here comes Eloise, and they have this exchange, which is beyond exchanges. That was a very bad fight between friends. The way that they came for each other, the way that Penelope continuously, in my opinion, gaslights her friend. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I get frustrated with her so much, which is one of the reasons I cannot be on Team Penn. But it's also her leaving this moment where she's now, like, yelled back at her friend, and her friend says, I never want to see or hear from you again. And I said, baby, like, the way she exited that room, I was like, you know what? Respect to Eloise in the way that she handled that moment, because it would have been real easy to go back and forth and to argue and to like yell. And she never did. She never let herself come out of her character. And I give her a lot of props for that, because this girl has essentially ruined your life and taken away the one good thing that was new and different for you because you trusted her so much. So anyway, we're on this coaster, right? That's now crashing. And then she goes outside looking for Eloise. Her friend hates her. She's outside running around trying to find this girl. Everyone's looking at her like, what is the matter with you? Like, we're having a party. And then she comes across the group of men and overhears this person that had her on cloud 9 throw her into the depths. And I was just like, damn. Like, I remember like watching it be like, ooh, this is a painful episode. And at the same time, I was just like, but you deserved it, Penelope. This is what happens. And I was very gratified. It was a very gratifying episode for me, I must say.
And you know what? Let me just go ahead and just finish off that scene, because like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Penelope Jesus must have had Gloria Gaynor all up in her ear, because I will survive. Because when Penelope got back to her room and got her pen and paper together, you know it's donezo. Period. Okay? Exactly. Because guess what? Lady Whistledown is back. Y'all thought I was gone? Watch me now. She went straight hove and was like, allow me to reintroduce myself. So go ahead and keep saying Penelope catching L's, because let me tell you, she coming up on that W real quick.
I don't know if I'm gonna call it a W. I feel like she's gonna be real vindictive in this next. She's gonna be petty. She's gonna be spiteful. Because at this point, I feel like Penelope has she's crossed all lines. Like she's thrown her own boo under the bus. Okay, she done Colin. She done her own family. Okay, and she's done her best friend. Like, that's it now. You can't hold nothing else against her. She's like, oh well, that's it. That's it. What else you got?
What else? Like, reminds me. You know what? It kind of reminds me of of 8 Mile with Eminem when he's doing the what do you call it? The rap battles, and like the very last rap battle, like his opponent runs out of things to say, and M is like, yeah, go ahead, say something about my mom, say something about the trailer park I live in, say something about my woman. Like, you've got nothing. Correct. And then Eminem proceeds to trash his opponent, and that's what Penelope will be doing in season 3.
Is that what? Okay, so all right. Well, as we let me round this out.
But remember, though, we do have to talk about Kate and Anthony, though, because I did have a question for you about them. I feel bad.
All right, well, here's one question that we'll leave for anyone who listens to answer in the comments. But I wanted to know personally, is Penn going to clean up her room by herself? Yeah. That's the think about it, because she's not one to. She's still like a young lady of the house. And that's a big mess. So is she cleaning that whole thing up by herself?
Yeah, because she don't want nobody to know where her money at.
Interesting. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I want to know what other people think about that one, because that's a lot. She tore up that girl's room. She tore it up.
Ooh, I would have been hot walking into that room. I would have been like, B, what is your problem? And clean it up next. Ooh, I would have been hot if somebody would have ran up in my room like that, though.
Anyway, you think about that one. If you think she's cleaning up herself, or she's just gonna clean up just enough and then be like, can y'all fix the rest of this? Because that was a mess. It wasn't a little bit of mess. It was a big mess. All right. So, okay. Yeah. You did say we had one more thing. I know this season was about Kate and Anthony, but season for me was really about Penelope and Colin. I can't stand Penelope.
About everything but Kate and Anthony, and then had the nerve to talk about them.
I know. Well, okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
This is the last one.
Okay.
I apologize, Kate, Anthony.
Because this really is their season, so we should really end it on this part. Okay. So, of course, and also just a real quick book versus TV show. Kate does get hurt in the book. She does get hurt in the TV show. However, Kate gets hurt during a carriage ride, and Anthony shows up. Versus in the show, it's riding the horse and she falls off the horse. So, same thing happened, just different premise, different context. But speaking of, what kind of emotions were running through Kate, which led her to kind of like go clear her mind during a rainstorm. Who does that? Only in the Bridgerton universe that happens. Okay. Only in the Bridgerton universe. Do you think if Anthony would events have been different if Anthony came to see Kate and maybe practice what he wanted to tell her? Because the way that it kind of fumbled out of his mouth, it really did come across like, hey, I deflowered you, so I feel bad, so let's get married.
Yes.
I don't know. Like,
I don't think practicing would have helped, because in his mind, he was doing his duty. I don't think Anthony in any way was acknowledging that he really loved this woman, and he wants to be with this woman. He doesn't want her to leave. I think he was not at that point yet. I think if he had practiced it, it would have came out a multitude of ways, and it still would have said the same thing that you just said.
I think so.
I think so, because he was still thinking of duty over love when he went to the house. He was kind of like, he was apologetic, like I didn't want it to happen like that. Like, first of all, that's also the first thing. I was like, did he just apologize? Sir. Granted, he said, I didn't want, I didn't mean for it to happen that way. Like, right. I didn't want it that way, but it's still kind of like, sir, don't show up here. Then first thing you do is apologize to me. So I thought that was a bit, I was like, oof, Anthony. He, like you said, he could have used a lot of practice before he went and showed up there. He probably should have talked to Benedict. Benedict really would have helped him. Benedict could have helped him 100%. But yeah, I don't think as much, if he had had a practice with Benedict, the practice with Benedict would have been one where Benedict's like, well, what are you trying to say? I feel like Benedict would have known that, like, I don't think she's going to take that well. I feel like he would have been a little bit more clear in that. He's like, all right, is that what you really want to say? So maybe if he talked to someone else, maybe that would have helped him kind of come to terms with how he's feeling or why he was feeling the way he was feeling. Yeah. You think if he just practiced a couple times in the mirror, it would have been better?
I mean, maybe talking to somebody like might have helped. I don't like, I keep thinking back in my mind, is there something he could have said that would have not had Kate tripping, and that Kate needed to go, clear her mind? Because I mean, really, that's what kind of dropped the domino for her to, like, go out and, even though she's silly for doing it, but still, she needed to go out and go clear her mind and figure out her feelings, because, her feelings were still mixed also about him. I don't know. I just feel like, could you have done something better? And
like not go for a run? I understand the run. I completely understand it. I know it's not the smartest thing to do. I know it was dumb, but I completely understand going for the run in the rain. I completely understand it.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I might be confused. I want to make sure I'm not messing up our listeners. So the scene that I'm talking about is with Anthony coming in to see Kate when Kate has recovered from the coma. So she's recovering from the coma because she had went out in the rain. And so what I'm trying to explain, so what I'm trying to ask Krystal is, during that particular scene, could he have said it any better versus her just kind of like blurting out, well, as soon as things are settled with my sister, I'm going back to India. Is there anything that he could have said to help change her mind? That's kind of where I'm going, because I think I kind of confused it with the whole making it sound like he attempted to propose and then she went out into the rain, which is not correct at all. It's the other way around. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if he had proposed properly, if he had proposed the way he proposed in the garden, that's because that's what she was looking for. She needed assurance, and she did not want to get married out of obligation. I know this is in my notes here.
I love that though, but you're right. I think, no, I truly believe that that's exactly what it is. She did not want to get married out of obligation. She wanted to be married out of love, because we think back to the bridal party scene between her sister, and her mom. Kate clearly has a logical understanding of what love is or what love should be. And she wants it for herself, because if not, she would not have shared that with her sister during that bridal scene. So absolutely, I think that the deep down inside, that's what she's always wanted, but she's afraid to share it because she doesn't think that she's worthy of it.
That's it. And I think the lesson of what I wrote down on that piece was that a lesson in love is that tell her the truth. I said, tell her the truth, sirs. That's what I wrote on my notes. And that's the easiest way. Tell the truth. So don't tell her a roundabout way. Don't try to bait and switch her, right? Like, well, if out of duty, I'll do this for you. No, I don't want it. So she wasn't, at least for me, she wasn't wrong in her rejection of his proposal, right? Like I thought, like, I completely understood it. Right. Didn't necessarily go to India for that. No, she could have just said no. But I understand her wanting to leave.
She needed to put distance between him and I was gonna, she just, because I mean, she's attracted to him. And she just like, you ain't going to get me caught up in no dining room area again and almost kiss me. I ain't doing that no more. She said, I'm going back to India.
What it's like for them together. Poor thing. She was like, I can't do this no more. But okay, so I know we're at the end, so I just want to can we just fast track to the end of this episode? So granted, they've come back now from their honeymoon, right? This is fast forward. It's fast track. They've come back.
Yes.
I honestly felt like that last scene was like unnecessary.
What?
Like the last scene of them in the bed, like they're like,
yeah.
It felt like like they threw it in at the end, and it was just like, we didn't really need it. I guess for me personally, I'm just like, I could have done without it. I didn't really need to see them in the bed, like naked in the bed together. Like it's, I guess for me, I'm like, yeah, I assumed on their honeymoon, they'd be, they're good now. I don't know. I did not care for that ending.
You know what? I actually agree with you. I mean, I would have liked the intimacy scenes to be more in the middle of the mix versus towards the end, because you're right. It just kind of felt like, like here's some more crumbs for the viewers. Actually, like, no, you guys pretty much didn't give us anything, and then when you did, we just felt like it was kind of too late for it. So at this point, we're just kind of like, look, let's just finish on a strong note. Like, we really didn't need it. But I mean, when you see two beautiful people in bed, oh well.
I don't know, it bothered me. That was one, like, even I just, and mind you, because we've watched this multiple times, every time I go, yep, still don't like it.
You're right. Krystal, real quick, January 28th, 1813, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice is anonymously published in London.
Really?
Yes.
Anonymously.
Well, yeah, of course, because of, film, because the female writers couldn't be acknowledged. And actually, female writers were known to take on male names.
Yes. Funny enough.
Or like unisex names.
Prevalent today, when women talk about women writers or women's stories, right? I remember I had gone to a writing conference, and they had buttons that you could use. And one of them said women's fiction. And I remember being like, what's the difference with women's fiction and fiction? I thought it was dumb, personally, that there was a separation. I'm like, what's going to happen if you like to me in my mind, I'm like, so what's going to happen? A man's going to pick up a book and not know that it's women's fiction and then be like, and then throw it down. Like, I'm like, I don't understand why we need to designate it that as something different. But the other thing I heard was that when it comes to like the number one and number two spots of what books are read, romance novels are at the top of the list, right? But women don't get the credit, or at least the writing does not get the same credit that I think it's not thrillers. It's kind of like the I guess like action nonfictions, or like those mystery type of stories are seen
action
as like
adventure. You're talking about, okay, yeah.
So when it comes to like the rankings, right? Realistically, the romance industry, just like those types of stories, quote unquote, are still at the top of the list, but they don't get the same level of credit. And additionally, women don't get the same recognition. So you will see authors when they're deciding on a pen name, they will change the name. I was watching a documentary, I'm trying to remember which one it was. And the woman mentioned that her dad was reading J.D. Robb for years. And J.D. Robb was like about like a detective and like, and it was set in the future and it was all about crime, crime stopping and all of this stuff. And he had no idea that the writer was Nora Roberts. Right. And so it's one of those things where like, the credit goes to a Robert, to a Patterson and to Clancy. And like, those are the ones who get the credit for like being these great, amazing writers. But it's like all these other stories that are very well read don't get the same credit. So it's not surprising to hear that both that story was published anonymously, but also the fact that that women had to use men's names, or the least the least feminine looking of a name in order to get someone to read the book. So that doesn't surprise me or shock me at all. I wish I knew the name. There was actually an artist who had written a ton of like plays and things, and she was married to I can't remember what country, but she was of she's Spanish. I can't remember what country. Oh, I hate that I don't remember at this point. If I remember it or I can look it up, I'll definitely put it into the show notes. But it was one of those things where someone had asked about her, a curator had asked about her, and no one knew. And when they started digging, they found out that she had been the one that had been helping her husband write all of these plays. He was very like well known. Turned out that they started looking it up, and there was things they had to like republish with her name on it after she, post her passing, obviously. And it's just interesting to like find out how relevant it is now. Like we're still in the same boat where, it's less. I think there's more women pushing the envelope and being able to write as they feel comfortable and write with their own name. But I'm not surprised, but at all. Yeah.
Agreed.
One step forward.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I know we've had a great chat. I know we have to shut it down and get ready to go prepare for season 3.
Oh my goodness. Well, Netflix is having is it Conundrum?
Wait, did I tell you? So it's called Tadum.
Tadum.
I didn't understand it. I'm like, what is, I thought it was like an international event. And I'm just like, is this something people say and like on this side of the world, not knowing that it was a global thing. And then watched the trailer for it. And somebody said it, and then they put Netflix, the way they edited it, they played the sound. And I was like, oh, I get it now. So Tadum.
Correct. Well, thank you. Well, Krystal and I are happily awaiting that because we anticipate that we will be finding out, hopefully, either a teaser trailer and or a date for Bridgerton season 3. So, and keeping my fingers crossed, hoping it's going to be this year, maybe around the same time, have like a little Christmas treat. If not, I'm definitely anticipating it for the spring of 2023. So
Love it.
that's my prediction on it. And I've been trying to, and I know Krystal has too, we have been diligently trying to avoid all of the sneak peek photos from set that folks like to post on Twitter. I think about that little Kim meme where she's just kind of doing the head bob, like, nope, I don't want to see it. Nope.
Yes, that is very true. However, one thing that came out today, Netflix posted that they've cast young Charlotte for the spinoff.
Yes,
her
gorgeous.
name is India Amartefo. And yeah, Queen Charlotte is the next spinoff that they're working on. We don't know. They're definitely in the room because one of the pictures she posted was them at the table read. So they're definitely getting ready to go into filming. Which also makes me think about like Golda and the fact that I'm like, girl, you just finished taping. You gotta go tape again. Check.
Get them checks, girl. Go ahead.
I love that. So I'm excited that the Bridgerton verse is growing. I'm excited to see how that goes and also how it grows. And I'm really hoping that we do this season 3. I feel like season 3 is going to be the make it or break it. Depending on how season 3 goes, I think we'll determine if we get a season 5 or 6. I really feel like that's going to be the determining factor.
Well, we are signed on for up to season 5. So we know we're getting season 4 and 5, but you never know. Hollywood does their thing, so who knows? But for sure, because I feel like we talked about this in one of our other episodes about because Benedict actually was supposed to come next. His story is supposed to be the next chapter, but Colin and Penelope's story is going to jump. It basically hopscotched over. So it's Colin and Penelope, and then it's supposed to be Benedict's story and then Eloise's story, technically.
Yeah.
And then also we have a new actress for our Bridgerton sister that sometimes pops in and pops out.
Oh, yes. Look at me. What's her name again? Okay, hold on. Let me do the alphabet. All right. Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca.
That
system. You see how that works?
Yes.
That actually worked.
And it did work too.
I had to walk my way through it because all I knew was that homegirl went to go play piano for the summer and then we never saw her again. I was like, does she live here? I was like, y'all look for her? Like, no one's asking questions.
So the actress that is going to be playing Francesca is going to be Hannah Todd.
Yes. I don't know her, but I know that a lot of the Brits on like Twitter and the like groups in the like in the Facebook group, like they know who she is and they've been talking a lot about like the excitement around her being cast. And also there was a lot of understanding as to why the previous Francesca was not working out because of her schedule. So for me, she hasn't been like a character. So I'm excited to see like who she is. Like I know nothing about Francesca. I'm really excited to see like how she gets to actually play a part in this space. All right. It's been fun. I can't believe this is the end of the season.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please comment, like, and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter at Krystal and Mara. And if you're listening via podcast, you can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify or anywhere else that you listen to your podcast. Please leave a review. Thank you for all of your support and hanging in there with us during this journey for season 2 of Bridgerton. We appreciate it so much. Looking forward to seeing everyone for season 3. Bye-bye for now.